Some updates coming forward of Nirbhaya convicts. The Supreme Court has now dismissed the curative pleas filed by two of the convicts in Nirbhaya case. Two curative pleas that were filed by two of the convicts, the Supreme Court has dismissed it. A five-judge Supreme Court bench dismisses the curative pleas put forth by the rapists. The rapist now to be hanged on the 22nd of January. This was much awaited. It's been close to 7.5 years since Nirbhaya, her family, the entire country has been waiting for justice. The rapists have been one after the other filing for mercy petitions, but somehow, even though it hasn't been entertained to a large extent, the delay in giving justice to Nirbhaya has prolonged by 7.5 years. This has, of course, upset the nation, more importantly, Nirbhaya's family, and many of those rape victims who look at Nirbhaya's case as setting precedents. Here is a five-judge bench who finally dismissed the curative petitions filed by two of the rapists. They've dismissed it and are going ahead with the conviction of death sentence on the 22nd of January. Let's quickly go over to Brinda Adige, joining us on the phone line. Activist here, Ms. Brinda. Rapists' curative petition, two of them have been dismissed. Now the Supreme Court is going straight towards convicting them, or rather sentencing them to death on the 22nd of January. Can you explain what really a curative petition is and the move of the Supreme Court here?
Curative petition is, I'm not a lawyer, so whatever little that I understand, it's something that is not really in the law, but was put forth as a procedure that should be adopted so that there is some more time, space given to the convicts to be able to challenge an order and a judgment. And that is exactly what these people have done. So we have all been harping about all of these procedures and processes should fall within a time frame and within a time bound, and that was also given to them earlier by the court, which they did not follow. And if you have been following this case, you will know that all the four convicts will never put forth all of their applications and petitions at the same time. They do it staggeringly. One convict will do it on one date, another convict will do it. So that, they just kept buying time for themselves. And this is a loophole in the law itself. Now that the curative petition, which was a formality that was granted to them, even though they did not have the right for it, as their time had lapsed where these fellows are concerned, the Supreme Court has now dismissed it, which means there is no more time, there is no more space, there is no other option within the law except now that the mercy petition that they can go ahead with.
So,
that mercy petition, I am hoping and I'm sure that the President will reject it, must reject it, because the mercy petition was also time that was given to them in Tihar jail when all four of them refused to make the petition, and the superintendent of Tihar jail made a statement that these four people refused to make the mercy petition. Even then, they now want to make that petition to the President. That is fine, let them go ahead. I hope it is just a formality that is summarily dismissed by the President. And 22nd January, we see these people hanging for the crimes that they committed.
Absolutely. Ms. Brinda, thank you very much for joining us with those details. We have Dhananjay, our Supreme Court advocate as well. Mr. Dhananjay, here curative petitions of two of the convicts have been dismissed by the Supreme Court. They're going to be sentenced to death on the 22nd of January. If you can highlight the importance of dismissal of these curative petitions.
Curative petition would be the last stage of judicial appeal available to the convicts.
Right.
Now, in the Constitution, there is no such thing like a curative petition. The Constitution only talks about a review petitions.
Right.
So, the Supreme Court devised this concept of a curative petition to ensure that even if there is a failure of justice in the earlier stages, at least they could, look in exceptional cases, review their own judgment. So this is nothing else but a super review, and it's been dismissed. Very often, the curative petitions are never really allowed. I mean, almost all the curative petitions are dismissed. So that is a trajectory this case too has taken, number one. Number two, in the Supreme Court, the first hearing would be in open court. The review hearing is always in chambers. But in death cases, what they do is they in fact provide open court hearing for review petitions also in death penalty cases, and that was done for all of these people. So that's also one of the reasons why the Supreme Court might have felt that there is really no need for them to go over the same argument over and over again. So that is why they have dismissed it. I think even the petitioners also expected this, because the petitioners, I don't think, were really very hopeful that what they could not convince the court with so far, they could convince in a curative petition, because that's never really happened before. More so in matters of public anxiety like this, we have never seen the Supreme Court take a different stand in curative petitions. So what they have done was all too expected, and I think the petitioners, that is the convicts themselves, knew that. Now all that remains is for the execution of the death warrant on the 22nd. Now what could be said is that the people who have seen their curative petitions dismissed today, they now have the option of moving the precedent. And because the president has already taken a call with respect to other convicts, and all of these convicts were charged with a conspiracy, which means the overall act was what was there. And individuals had, differing or rather conspiratory roles. So the president would not be able to take a different call for these people who would now file a clemency or a mercy petition before the president. So one could expect the president also to, take up the review of the mercy petition and then dismiss it maybe in a few days. So as we look at it, it looks like the convicts don't seem to have any avenue open to them to extend the date of their death, which is the 22nd at this point of time. That's the date on which the warrant will have to be executed, and that's the date fixed for the death of imposition of death of all of these convicts. So that's how it is.
Right. Mr. Dhananjay, thank you very much for joining us with those details.